Hello and welcome in to another edition of the LFC Transfer Room for another stream this evening. I'm going to be discussing a little bit about the game. I know we did have a post-match, but we'll have a little chat about the game and McAllister's red card, and then we're going to be speaking about Arthur Theate, Doucouré and Andre, so loads of targets to discuss, joined by Dan, Colin and Neil today. Start with you, Dan. How are you after a win?
I'm good. I'm good. I was very upbeat with the attitude shown by the players. That was a very mad game. It kind of reminded me of the Palace game last year where, like we go behind, we have a red card, it's just a bit chaos, a bit hard, but the players pick themselves up. They don't go down, I'm excited. It's a nice day. It's a nice day to get a win. It's a terrible day up here in Boston. It's cloudy and it's rainy. I feel like I'm in Newcastle or Sunderland right now. It's terrible.
It's actually all right in Liverpool today. Colin, how are you doing?
Good to see you, Matty. I'm doing well. Yeah, no complaints. It's a beautiful day here in Pittsburgh, but yeah, even better day to get a win. Can't complain.
Yeah, Neil, sunny by you as well. It's lovely up here, so.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I just come back from Turkey. I was in Marmaris, so I flew back last night. So it's not as nice as it was in Marmaris, but it's not been too bad and good to get a result. Wasn't comfortable viewing at times, especially those first 10 minutes. But yeah, 3 points. That's all that matters.
Yeah, definitely. We'll start with that, Dan. First 15 minutes or so, we were very, very shaky, weren't we? To be fair, didn't look like Liverpool that we know and love. After the 15 minutes, we did turn it on and were fantastic. But what was your thoughts on them first 15 minutes of the game?
Yeah, I mean, it really seemed like Bournemouth's game plan coming in was like we're going to try and rattle Liverpool in the first 5 to 10, and try to get turnover possession, get on the ball, and they did a really, really good job. I actually thought it was really shaky because Trent loses the ball within twice in the first 2-3 minutes. We go behind. Alisson again, same thing. Just a bit too casual on the ball as well. It just took us a while to kind of get up to speed. But once we kind of got over that first 5 to 10 minutes, they were able to put their foot on the ball and start moving it and be a little more confident as well. My first thought when I was watching that was like, oh no, not this again. But as the game progressed, I started to see the fact that Bournemouth couldn't keep the press up, and we just did a really, really good job of controlling the game and then making Bournemouth weaker with our passing and our pressing. We can get by their press and everything else. So started out pretty rough, but again, their characters showed through. We saw their quality as well. This was a situation where it's 5 minutes in, everyone looks like we just lost the game.
Yeah. Chainsaw. Who's getting chainsawed in the background?
I swear it's not me.
Colin,
Yep.
It's not worrying the first 15 minutes that even against Chelsea, we didn't stop. Yeah. But today, go to the pace, take a charge, that could be hard, wouldn't it?
Yeah. The first quarter of games, even at home, there still doesn't look like there has been a really that much of an attitude change during that time in games. I think it's really something that needs some mental work. But to be truthful, I might be higher on Bournemouth than other people. I think that new manager is quite good. I think they're going to continue to get stronger as the year goes on, and I don't think that they're going to be just a walk in the park for most teams. So. Yeah, very happy with the response after it, and pleased to get the points.
Colin makes a good point there about Bournemouth. They are not the Bournemouth of old, where you could think you'd just turn them over. Yet they will have a few results where they get battered, but they are a good side, aren't they? So to go and beat them 3-1 in essence is a good result because you can see them taking points off bigger teams this year.
Yeah, I think they're much improved from the Bournemouth that we've seen in the past. I think Iriola he's got a very good reputation. I think he comes from the same area as Arteta, and you can see he's had a positive influence on their style of play already. So they already had players that could cause problems, and I think they've added to that over the past 12 months. To become a far more resolute side. I think Tyler Adams will come in; he'll improve them again. So yeah, I mean they'll be trickier customers than in the past, which is why it's good to get it out of the way And you know, we had a couple of things go against us that first 10 minutes, and then the red card. So we showed a bit of character to come back and win the game. So all in all, very pleasing.
Yeah, speaking of the red card, Dan Haley mentioned that it could potentially be Newcastle, Villa, and Wolves that max out for if we do appeal it. It's a tough one, really, innit? Because I can understand why the red was given because the boots were high, it went on the shin, but it is a soft red.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that in many ways, but from the even just this United game going by, like Porro was over the ball straight into, I think it was Fernandez's shin, and it didn't even get a free kick. Everything as well. Like, you know, I understand what you meant, Maddie, when you said that like it's a soft red. It's just in my mind, it's like it's either red or it's not, and that's one that if he looked at VAR, I don't think he would have given red as well, considering the fact that Paul Tierney was on VAR. The fact he didn't go look at it was really mad as well. I don't think he'll do the 3 matches ban. They might get a 1 just because I think they can argue, look, this is not violent play. It's not full on contact into the leg. Like both boots are up and it's the side of the boot into the shin, not full on. So you could argue that it was not like full on violent play or dangerous play in many ways, and they could probably get that overturned. And if he just misses Newcastle, I think we'll be fine. If he misses all 3, yeah, that would be kind of tough, especially against Villa. Villa's going to be the more interesting one of those 3 that we have coming up.
Well, are you in the camp of soft red? Can you see any reason behind it being a red? I mean, Twitter's went into meltdown saying absolutely no way is it a red, and it is a soft red. But for the referee, everything happened so fast. Not trying to defend him because he was crap today, but boot raised and stuff. You can see his logic. It's more VAR, isn't it? That's the whole point of it.
Yeah. I can't ever wrap my head around. I do think it's soft. I think it's like deeply soft. I think that's a yellow all day. Like it's unfortunate that, you know, that he does catch his foot. It's not a foul. But I don't, there's no intent there. It's a 50-50 ball. He goes in and I think he catches him weird. Like that does happen. I'm with Dan as well. I think I think they appeal that probably gets taken to a 1. I just would like to see this kind of, like, if that's how that's going to be called, then that needs to be a standard across the remainder of the year. I think back to that, and I saw tons of people sharing it, but thinking back to that foul that like boots straight into Gakpo's chest.
Yeah, Tyler Mings, the Villa game last year.
It's horrific. That is so much worse of a challenge.
And that was only a yellow after VAR.
It's mad. It's mad.
It's exactly the same challenge. It's exactly the same challenge that De Jong had all those years ago in the Netherlands versus Spain. World Cup, we literally boots. I think it was either PK or Busquets right in the chest. It was absolutely terrible.
I just can't, like, if that is going to be a red, then that should be a red consistently for the rest of the year, across every game. If anybody believes that that's how that they will apply it, though, I'd like to have a word with them. I think.
I mean, Neil, everyone's in the camp. It should have been a yellow. So even if it got overturned, it's just a 1-match ban. It's still a bit of a kick in the teeth for Liverpool, isn't it? Considering how big of a game Newcastle is for Sutton, and we had to play 40 minutes today without McAllister for a tackle that should never have been. Like VAR should have overruled that, surely.
Yeah, it is a kick in the teeth. It was never a red card. I think sometimes I think everyone's sort of said in the past that when you slow things down, things can look much worse. It didn't even look that much worse when it was actually slowed down. So there was not much force involved. But Mr. Tierney on VAR, it's no surprise that he didn't overturn it. As to whether we'll be successful in the appeal, I don't know. But it will be a blow, especially if it's 3 games. Because he's going to be a key player for us, but I think what they're trying to do, the officials, is try and make it that it has to be really, really clear and obvious error, and it was a foul. Most people might have given a yellow card, some might have given nothing, but this higher threshold of overturns, whilst I like the idea behind it, it can't be to the point where we see decisions like we did today, which, as you said, 40 minutes playing without with 10 men. So it didn't count against us today, but it could do in the games that he misses. So I think Howard Webb needs to get his band of merry men together and look at a common sense aspect as much as anything.
Yeah. Jen, thank you so much for your super sticker. We know how much we love you in this LFC transfer room community. Absolute hero. It's good to see all the familiar faces. Haley's here as well. We've got Jamie Hughes, all the originals. Been here since the start. Good to see you. If you are new around here, though, do leave a like and a subscribe on the video. It helps us out proper loads. We've got over 100 people in the video. I can guarantee there's not 100 likes. It'll help us out loads. Does boss the channel, so keep doing that. Before we move on to some transfer news, and I do apologise for the offer for the Andre title at 17 million. I'll just say that early. Seen a few comments about it. I didn't do it. That would be on Charlie, who was probably busy, so it was made very, very quickly. But yeah, before we go on to the signings, Dan and Colin, I'm Neil going to put this to you. Man of the match, Szoboszlai got it. The Carlsberg man of the match, officially through Liverpool. I'm not sure who got it. With other outlets and stuff, I just know Liverpool have officially give it to Dom. Would you agree with that, Dan? I mean, to me, he's sign of the season. I think in the Prem, it's only 2 games in, but I think he is it, isn't he? It's what we've been missing for years, and that number 8 had some upgrade from Kaiser.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be here and slide off Naby Keita or even like Jordan Henderson going back, because I love both those players when they played for us when they were at their best. But Szoboszlai is just different gravy, like absolutely, just like to quote Andy, I forget his name now already, the boxing promoter guy, someone will correct me in the comments. He's just absolute different gravy, because you're getting everything that you want from a Henderson, the energy, the relentlessness that just keep going and going. But you have the technical ability that Keita had on the ball, his passing, his dribbling. Like, he can do it all. He can carry it. He can dribble. Like, he just did a casual left boot, looked like a clearance up the line for Trent to catch. I was like, this guy's absolutely insane. It's absolutely crazy. He was man of the match by miles. I think I could have said, for an outside shout or just to be contrarian, you could have said Diaz or Salah, because I think Diaz had a really good game as well, just holding the ball up. Nothing spectacular when he scores the goal, which is still a really good goal. But I mean, Szoboszlai is just like ridiculous. Considering the other mids right now, he's probably the best mid in the Prem. Like, I know they have Caicedo and Fernandez, but like Szoboszlai can do everything that these guys can do and more, and that's what's absolutely insane. I feel like we should just give RB Leipzig like 20 million pounds, just like as an apology that we bought this player off them, because he's just so good. He's just so good.
Colin, in the same camp as your man of the match?
Yeah, he has to be. The most impressive thing to me, I guess maybe the thing that I wasn't expecting quite the most, is his physical attributes. Like, he looks big, he looks fast, he's strong on the ball, and he doesn't stop. He really, like, his engine is incredible. He was going the entirety of the game. Yeah, I think he just is like really, really something special. I think we should keep the extra 20 million, and RB Leipzig can be sad that they're missing out on it. But he's definitely worth it. He's definitely worth the extra. But not that we can afford to give anybody any more money.
Colin, if you go back to that preseason, remember they were doing the lactate test, and Trent and everyone looked. I was like, this guy's been going for how long? I feel like that's when like my brain was like, oh, this could be special. Well, and I think already we're just seeing.
Yeah, he asked to do it. He was like, we can go one more, and they were like, no, we're not going to be doing that. It still is interesting to. I mean, you're right. We did kind of see early that he has that sort of, the special sort of physical attributes. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily like translate in game as well. I think that he looks like a real bear to deal with. If you're playing against him, he looks a real problem.
Neil, would you agree? Full house for Dom. I mean, he's mustard, isn't he?
I always knew he was a decent player, but I thought he was good last week, and I think today it shocked me just how good he was, and as Colin said, in terms of his physicality, he just looks like he can go all day. And not only does he go and win the ball, does he go and press, does he win the ball back? He then uses the ball really, really well as well. So I think, you know, his ball retention today was outstanding as well. So I actually thought Ibu had a really good game. I thought Virgil had a good game. I think his pass didn't really help on the first goal, and I thought Diaz was you know, he got better and better as the game went on. But for me, Szoboszlai was head and shoulders above everybody. And I know on our chat people were saying, "Oh, he looks like he could be like the next Kevin De Bruyne." I haven't said that to my mates yet because I think, you know, it's two games in, but I do think we may be sitting on a very special player. So yeah, head and shoulders above the rest for me.
I actually think so. I'm actually gonna be more crazy. I think he's the closest thing to Gerrard that's been in the Liverpool team since Steven Gerrard.
Big shout, Dan.
But I mean, listen, Gerrard at 22 is not the Steven Gerrard that he was at 24, 25. You know, he still had those injury issues in the early 2000s. But like, there's nothing that Dominik Szoboszlai can't do. Like, I look at him and I'm like, there's nothing he can't do. He just needs to score at this point.
I think I said in our chat again at half time, I want to see him shoot more because I think there was one or two opportunities last week and in the first half today where he didn't let fly. And as soon as he did let fly, we scored the third goal from it. All right, the keeper probably could have done a little bit better. But I just want him to have I think he's got the confidence. I think he's got a bit of a swagger about him. Just shoot, man, because you are real quality. So, yeah, I think we could be looking at a future Liverpool star.
As long as he knows not to do that stupid suey celebration.
Yeah.
Hey, I hope one of these people who are good as well as Endo, I mean, played all right, but yeah, before we move on to transfers, do not forget to leave a like and a subscribe on the video, whoever this is in the comments. If it's you, Charlie, can you please add an M to the £17 because everyone's having a bit of a laugh in the comments here about that. But yeah, moving on, we'll go to Arthur Theate. Apparently, there is interest in him, Dan. I do think there will be more incomings. I think Klopp basically confirmed that, didn't he, in his press conference yesterday, that there will be incomings, but no outgoings. I can't say I've seen much of him, so if there's anyone in the comments or any of you who've seen him, please do enlighten me. What's your thoughts, Dan?
I mean, Tete is kind of the profile player they're looking at. If you look at all the center backs we've been linked with, from Colwell to Schurz to Van de Ven to Hincapié and Guardiola, they're all around 6'1", 6'2", so not the tallest center backs. They all play left center back / left back. They're all on the ball. They're all even Ignacio, the same profile as well. I mean, I think it's just like they're just any sort of left center back that can just play progressive passes is who we're being linked to. I actually have a theory in my brain that they don't actually sign a defender at this point. I know that, you know, Tete, we're looking at him. He was supposed to go to, I think he was going to go to either Leipzig or he was going to go to somewhere in Germany, but the deal fell through. And then Lukeba, who at Lyon went to Leipzig as well. Like, I've seen him on some FBref, and I've seen some clips from Ligue 1 last year when I was catching some of the games on ESPN or even Paramount as well. Like, he's decent, but I just don't think we're signing a center back this summer, if I'm being quite honest. I know we want one, Klopp wants one. I just don't think it happens because I think they're going to go in and sign like one or two more mids at this point, because, or even and the only defender I think we would sign at this point is Hincapié over Tete, because Hincapié has actually played this system with some at Leverkusen, where they have the same sort of 3-box-3 shape, really high intensity, high pressing that we play today, rather than Tete at Rennes. And Rennes like a decent League 1 side, but League 1 side. But I think Hincapié would be the only one we would, if we're going to sign a center back, he's the only one we're probably going to sign.
Yeah, well, have you seen much of him, Colin? Because I'm just having a little quick look at his stats now. And to be fair, his passing stats look fantastic, but his defensive stats look a bit weak, to be fair.
Yeah, similar to Pau Torres in that regard. I have not seen a minute of him actually play. I've seen some of the stat packs. I'm at the point of the transfer window where like everything is a yes. I'm like, yeah, sure. We'd like Endo, sure, that's fine. We want another myth. Yeah, get him in. Like I do not care at all. I will get behind whoever it is. I think if they're going to bring someone in, I trust them enough to get someone who's not absolutely terrible. And like I just don't care who it is. Like just 2 more bodies through the door would be outstanding. And I don't really care what position they're in. I don't really care who it is in particular. I have some preferences, but like not really anything that would override just getting someone through the door.
Yeah, Neil, I mean, transfer market's got him as 22 million euros. It does look like he is in that left centre back role. So also like replacing Robbo, so it makes sense why his defensive stats aren't brilliant. I mean, for a centre back to only be in the 5th percentile for tackles is a bit concerning. And what fee have you heard of any fees for him, or do you think it's got legs? Because there's a comment here from Paul where he says with Bajcetic, Thiago, and Jones close, a centre back is probably more urgent now, especially bringing Endo in. Which is that something you'd agree with? That might be the next player we see come in a centre back.
It's a difficult one because I'd still like another out and out number 6. I think. So I'd probably prioritize that just over a defender. Now Theate, in terms of price range, I think he said 22 million euros. I suspect I don't think we'd be looking much more than 30 million euros. I've seen bits. I think he can be a bit reckless at times. I think he's quite an aggressive defender, but I think he's very, very good on the ball. So I think he's only young as well, isn't he? So he's only about 22.
So
23. He's 23.
23. So and he's played I think 8 or 9 times for the Belgian national team. So so you're buying someone with the attributes, a lot of the attributes that you want, that's still young enough, that's going to develop further at a reasonable price. So it wouldn't surprise me. The issue is, you know, what are we going to do alongside that in midfield and how that impacts the non-homegrown quota? I think that's the big question.
So right now we have one non-homegrown registration spot open. So if we sign either Hincape or Tete or Shears or whoever, they would take that, and we would only get another homegrown spot if we deregister a player such as maybe Adrian.
Yeah.
Which is why I think the reason that we have these links to Gravenberch, regardless of how, if anybody rates them, is that if you sign Gravenberch, you don't have to register him as a non-homegrown player because he just turned 21 this year. So he would count as under 21. So he wouldn't take up a spot. And I think the reason we've been linked with Doucouré is that Cheick Doucouré could play both the 6 and a defensive spot. Same thing with Endo. So I think rather than buying an out-and-out center back, they're looking for someone who can play both midfield and defense. And I think that's why Gravenberch has been. I think he's the most likely to come through the door next if we sign another player. Even though obviously right now Bayern don't want to sell, is because he fits that quota and you can develop him and you can solve that left center back issue with like Juro Kwanzaa, Andy Robinson, or another player, which I know not everyone agrees with, and I don't agree with that as well, but I think that's what they're planning to do at the moment.
What is the homegrown? We have to register. Is it 21 or 22?
It's 21. So you have to be, well, so the thing is that if you're 21 before the January of that season, you have to be registered as non-homegrown. But since Ryan Gravenberch just turned 21 this year, as in after January 2023, he would not count as not homegrown. He would count not homegrown next year when we registered players for the Premier League.
Yeah, Colin, I mean, like Dan just said there, Gravenberch probably does make sense because he's not taking that homegrown slot. And then Adrian next season will probably depart, frees up a slot for him.
Mm-hmm.
But then if with the link in Tete, would you rather, if on the basis we were bringing Gravenberch in for the non-homegrown, would you rather get Arthur Theate or Cheick Doucouré? Considering one's centre-back, one's midfielder, will factor in that we do still have the likes of Thiago, and I know midfield's weak, but
if Gravenberch comes in, then I think the next most important is the centre back. So if that's Tete, then that's fine. I think for all of the reasons cited that Gravenberch makes the most amount of sense. Also, he's not he's not going to be 50 million. Like it seems like you could probably get Bayern to get rid of him for 25 to 30. And I think that again, for all reasons cited, he's moldable. He's very young. He doesn't count against the homegrown. I think some of the questions about him include maybe some of his work ethic off field, like his consistency, I guess, as a professional. I think having Van Dijk and having Gakpo in the team, I think would certainly help that in a way that I don't think a lot of other teams would have that kind of specifically. They have relationship with him that he would understand. I think if he comes in that they're going to set a tone for him and he needs to work up to that level. So then I think if that's the case, we got Endo and Gravenberch. I think that would be most important then to get the left-sided center back. And especially as well, if we're looking at maybe a January move for a midfielder, I don't think that Doucouré is then. I think it's hard to justify like 70 million or 60 to 70 million for Doucouré then.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why we haven't heard any like official bid news is because if you're spending 50 or 60 million on Doucouré, that's your 6 for next 3-4 years. And I don't think Liverpool want him. I don't even think Klopp wants to have Doucouré as the 6. I think he wants someone a little bit more dynamic, which is why they were looking at Caicedo and Lavia, because you're talking about 2 players that play the 6, but they can tackle, they can scream, but they can also progress the ball as well. I'm not saying Doucouré can't do that, but if you're spending that much money on Doucouré, you're saying we're hitching our train to Doucouré for the next 2 or 3 years to be the lighthouse for this team. And that's why I think they might. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Colin.
The Doucouré stats from the year before do look a bit better in terms of.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Progressive, more. I think it does have a lot to do with what he's asked to be doing in this Palace team, which they look like they might struggle again. It just seems like a really negative, very defensive team that's going to have to play defensively to get results. So I think that does definitely skew the data on his styling. I just don't think that we're going to do. I don't think that we would do Endo and Gravenberch and then another midfielder. If there was,
I don't think so either.
If we do, then we can kiss any hope of a center back this window or any other midfielder in January. I think is out.
Yeah, I mean, James Hughes has put a comment. I don't know where about. I think he's on about Ant as well. About Hinchcappy apparently checking Liverpool out online. Are you on about our Ant? Because he hasn't said nothing like that, so I'm confused what he's checking out online. Because then if he's...
He definitely was liking post.
Yeah, I think we put something on our Twitter account earlier where he'd liked the post about. I think it was to do with the Anfield Road stand actually. So interestingly, I mean, I know he shares the same agent as Caicedo, I think, which possibly could likely rule him out of a move. I think he's another one like Gravenberch that might fall into wouldn't need to be registered as a homegrown player this year because I think he only turned 21
on the 9th of January.
Yeah, so I think he gets in by 9 days, but because of the agent situation, I'm not sure how likely that is.
Well, we know who his agents are at least, so we know we can ring them up anytime.
I mean, and Neil, Tony brings this up. I don't know if it's that easy though, is it? About you can just drop Adrian from a non-homegrown list if a keeper gets injured, swap him back. Can we do that if we was to bring in several players and we can't register them all at once?
Well, I think there are. I think it's easier to get an exception to register a goalkeeper outside of the transfer window than it is any other player. I think Barcelona might have done something with Martin Braithwaite last season or the season before. So I think if you can prove that you don't have any fit goalkeepers either in your registered squad for the Premier League or you don't have any youngsters that can fill that position, then they might allow you to make an emergency registration or emergency signing. So it's the one that everyone keeps mentioning that, do we really need to register Adrian. We have got some good young goalkeepers. We've got Marcelo Pitaluga. I don't know if we've arranged a loan for him this season. I don't think we have.
I don't think we have yet. No, and
Harvey Davis, I saw
Yeah.
a few times for the under-21s last year. I quite like, but he has gone out on loan. And we've also got a couple of other lads as well. So, yeah, I mean, whether the club feel that they would be able to, sign or register Adrian in an emergency situation and feel comfortable leaving him out now, I'm not sure. But it's certainly with goalkeepers, there's more flexibility than other positions.
It just seems mad though, doesn't it, to register him? Because even if, God forbid, Alisson got injured, Cueva play, and then you'd probably put Pitaluga on your bench, who's not having to be registered anyway. So it seems hard to register him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I'll just be honest. I don't think Adrian is good enough now to go in and play competitive football for Liverpool. All right, he might fill in a Carabao Cup game, but I would not want to see him in a Premier League game or an important cup game again. And that's he's provided good service for us. Initially when he came in, he did well, but he's not good enough with his feet, and that will put us under pressure. He obviously behind the scenes has a positive influence maybe on the younger goalkeepers, which is great, but I'd rather we throw one of them in than see him on the team sheet again.
Yeah, Alisson said when we won the league that Adrian comes into training and just trains is like ridiculous and kind of forces Alisson to like up his training again as well. So if you go back to when we won the league in 1920, that's what Alisson was praising Adrian for, is that he just brings such a standard of training that for goalkeepers that Alisson's probably like, dang, I was expecting to have to work this hard today, but I guess I'm going to have to. And we know Alisson loves the barbecue, so you got to work hard in training. We don't want Alisson to start putting on too much weight.
Yeah, before we move on to the next topic, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe on the video. Over 200 of yous in here. It does loads for us if you leave a like with the algorithm. More people can see it. Bigger the channel gets, better the content gets, I suppose, because they'll be I don't even know how to word it. But please just leave a like and subscribe. It helps us out loads. Moving on to Andre for £17 according to our stream. Now it's 17 mil. I don't know why it says £17, but Dan, apparently the report of this is saying that Liverpool would be prepared to wait until 2024 for him. That's hence the €17 million fee, and there'll be a 20% sell-on clause as well. The last time I can see us exploring the South American market was when we brought Lucas Leiva in. So it's good to see us going there, isn't it? Rather than letting another club get him and then pay 60 million in 2-3 years.
Yeah, and there seems to be a big transfer change when with Jörg Schmadtke coming in, kind of like looking at the German league a little bit more, kind of looking outside of the Portuguese league, and I think they're also trying to look and take more chances in South America. And I think we've seen with the likes of Julian Alvarez, Moises Caicedo coming out of South America, and insert 80 new player coming into the Premier League from South America in the past few years. I think it's a smart buy. I've had my mindset that this is a pure January buy for a number of reasons. One, the Brazilian transfer window's closed. So if Fluminese sold him, and Fluminese is not a big club, they do not have a lot of money. So if they sold him, they couldn't buy anybody for a while. So they probably would prefer to sell in January where they can buy someone. Two, they're in the Copa Libertadores, which for people watching and don't know this is essentially the Champions League for South America and is a very big deal. And, Fluminese are a football club and also shouldn't have to sell their best player just because they'll blast them too very nicely. And I think three, it just makes the most sense for Liverpool because there could be an argument in January where we have some injuries. We can we are missing deregistering a player, that you can deregister someone or register Andre to come in as well. And he just seems so much like a Thiago replacement. And that's what everyone said, because I think everyone's committed to the idea that Thiago's going to leave next year, and that opens another registry spot. And if you sign, hypothetically, Andre for January, let's just say Gravenberch or Doucouré for this window, you've essentially replaced your entire midfield in one summer faster than you were expecting to, and that frees up attention and money to be spent on theoretically a Salah replacement or a more likely a defensive replacement. It just screams just smart business, and I think Andre would be a very astute signing for us in January.
Yeah, I mean, Colin, he's been capped by Brazil as well. So there was a comment, just seen it then, about from Boom Boom, about 17 million surely worth a gamble anyway, even if he does come in and flop.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I think this like seems like an opportunity to make like a very shrewd business move. Like that amount of money like is very helpful to Fluminese. They don't, we don't need him immediately. It's not like we have to have someone play right this moment. They don't have to give him up until January, until that competition is concluded, and they don't need, and then they're able, like we as a club are able to get in someone who I would have the hardest time believing, even if he doesn't seem for whatever reason to rise to a level that is going to, be a starter in our team forever, that in 2 to 3 years, like, could we not sell him then for 20, 25, 30, based on the market that midfielders are at the moment? If he's half decent, then I can't imagine that the price wouldn't be there for him. God forbid everything goes poorly. If everything goes well, he's 22. It like that just screams to me like, if we don't do that, someone else is going to, and then in 2 years we're really going to be kicking ourselves. We're like, we
And
had the chance for 17 million.
And they also made a lot of changes recently to like player registration, work application from South America too. So I think that's also another reason why Liverpool are starting to shop there more, is because we got screwed over for Alon a couple of years ago, the youth player. When we signed him, someone we really rated highly, but could never get him registered for a work visa. So I think that's also one of the big changes. That's why we're looking at Andre and Fluminese in South America now as a market to get players from.
Yeah, I mean, I've just seen a comment as well, Neil, about Andre saying where's it came from. It's come from Journal Odia, who's quite reliable. It's a steal really in today's market, isn't it? £17 million.
It is. It's extremely low risk. By all accounts, I can't say that I've seen too much of him, but from what I've read and what I have seen, he looks like an outstanding talent. So I think Colin mentioned, the risk is low because you could possibly sell him on. The upside is huge because he could come on to be a player worth tens of millions as well. So there's no risk from that perspective. By all accounts, he looks like he's going to possibly he would be Thiago's replacement. I think what we've done in the forward line really well is we've had a certain element of or a certain amount of succession planning. So we got Gakpo in 6 months before Firmino went. We got Diaz in before Mane went. Well, we haven't done that very well in midfield, and probably not in defence either. So I think it would be a good opportunity to look at succession planning. If he is the replacement for Thiago, get him in, let him have half a season while Thiago's still there, and we're not paying big bucks for him either. So I think knowing FSG, they're probably aware now with prices as they are, but we need to change our transfer strategy. And that might mean that we go and look at markets that we haven't traditionally looked at before, because I think we've always kind of waited, haven't we, for them to succeed in a top 5 European league before making our move for players. So maybe that will change as they look to try and find sort of value in the market.
Yeah, I think the problem, Tony, is they won't sell him for 20 million now because of the Copa de Libertadores. I think it's about 40 million now. There's a lad in the comments as well who's a Fluminese fan, so welcome to you. He says £17 million the offer we refused from Fulham in January. Fluminese want €25 million and a 20% sell-on clause. I think that works out around 17 million, 18 million, doesn't it, Dan? 25 million euro.
Yeah,
team as well. He said he's totally ready for Europe. So this is coming from a Fluminese fan. Fill you with a bit more excitement.
Don't we have a history of doing business with them? Isn't that where Pitaluga came from as well?
I think Alisson started there.
Yeah.
And then his brother was there for a while, and then I think that's how. I think Alisson basically told them, like the recruitment team, like, "Hey, my brother told me about this like 14-year-old who's like 6'4", who plays goalie there or is in the academy, and to get him from there."
Yeah.
Wasn't it?
Alisson and his brother both came from Novo Hamburgo, which is in Porto Alegre. So they both played for Internacional, which is the big club in Rio Grande do Sul next to Grêmio. So those are the two big clubs down there. And now his brother plays at Fluminese. Yeah, so that's probably where he got that inside track on as well.
Yeah.
I mean, like Neil said, Dan, he does look like the Thiago replacement, and to get a replacement in who's he's not saying he's going to be at Thiago's level yet, but he's got the potential to reach that level, and we're going to get a prime version of him rather than an end of the career injury prone version. It's exciting, really, isn't it? Because then that's adding depth, because he's obviously a lot more advanced. So he's going to be in the roles where McAllister and Dom are going to play once we do start playing Endo or whatever DM we do bring in. So he's going to come in and be basically back up to them. So then the drop-off's not even that much, really, is it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would actually say right now, Alexis Mac Allister is the Thiago replacement, in the sense that McAllister is probably the closest one to Thiago's level at the moment. And I think what Andre's going to do is that he's going to come in and bring in, again, like we're saying the Thiago replacement in the sense of someone who's tenacious on the ball, wins the ball, passes the ball, and is pretty much a metronome in the team, but with just that extra bit of tenacity and, like you said, less injury prone as well. Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the smartest deals we can do if we get it done, because it essentially you future-proofed your midfield for not even just the last 3 years of Klopp, but like you're talking about like 5 to 6 years, essentially, when they have to renegotiate contracts. And I know what Neil mentioned earlier about the fact that, we haven't been as on top of our midfield rebuild as other ones. I think that really came down to the fact that we were banking on Fabinho and Henderson to last much longer. And also we were banking on, which you can argue that this was a bad plan, that Keita and Ox would be more reliable, or you could sell them on much earlier and get a midfielder in to replace them. But I think the fact we just held on, 18 months too long, a year too long for all those players, and they all dropped off much, much faster than we expected them to as well. But if they can get this done, then they've essentially rebuilt the entire midfield in 2 windows, which is absolutely insane considering how many of their teams out there still need to like rebuild their teams, like United and Chelsea still. That's
interesting as well. Just want to make an agreement, so we just get all your boss kids coming to us a little bit older, because I think that's what's missing. I mean, I just want to make a comment before I go to you anyway, but I think that is what's missing from Liverpool, isn't it? That we don't have that ruthlessness in the South American market, because teams like Fluminese have got unbelievable academies that churning out this talent, and then we're getting them after they've went to somebody else. Like you think of Alexis McAllister, came from Argentina, I think, wasn't it, to Brighton for nothing, and then they then sell him for 50 odd million. But while we're streaming, this has came out apparently about Andre. Melissa Reddy's reporting that we are in talks for him for now. I can't see nothing on Twitter to see where she said this, so if someone can clarify where she's said it, because if she's saying that and if she's putting names with, then there might be more legs to it.
Yeah, it's not on her Twitter account. I'm just having a look to see.
I'm thinking she's written anything for Sky.
Yeah, maybe it sounds great. But yeah, Colin, do you think that's something we need to be doing more of, targeting the South American market, picking up players like Andre before they make the move to your Brighton, your Brentfords and stuff, and get that £60 million move a few years later?
Yeah, I do. Didn't Jurgen have a quote from his from an interview the last couple of days where he kind of alluded to the fact that the owners want players who are 22 years old and have 200, 250 club starts, and he's like those don't exist. Those don't really exist in that way. I think that is one of the best places to look for and to exploit that interest, specifically looking for very young players who have played a good amount of senior minutes against talent that is still quite good. We're not talking top 5 league in the world, but it's not as if that they are playing in the United States second league, USL. Like it's still a very high quality, and especially in like a midfielder's market, I think we've seen a good, really good, healthy sample size of players who can be gotten for reasonably cheap in terms of like European clubs, and those clubs are very willing to do a deal, especially if like Fluminese in this case want a sell-on clause. That really is where they're banking on, if that person becomes a world beater, that's where they really are banking on making that money. And I think that would be a phenomenal place for us to start shopping more, prior to trying to pick Brighton's pockets for £120 million.
Yeah, I mean, Neil, if he does come, can you see him coming? If it was to be this window, I really can't believe that he'll come in now. I think it will be January. But if he is, what's next? Because obviously he's coming in. Do you reckon he's just coming in as depth, or do you think he's coming in to start in that midfield?
It's difficult to say whether he would, because I don't think he's an out-and-out six from what I understand. So I don't think he'd naturally go into that role. And again, how much transition time does a player need? If you remember with Fabinho, I think he took 3 to 4 months before he actually. I think people were worried, weren't they, because he wasn't playing, and he was given time to sort of get used to the game here. So I like to think with all of these players, if they come in, they come in with the ambition of being a starter. And he looks like a confident lad. So, but to get ahead of McAllister, to get ahead of Szoboszlai, is difficult to see.
And he is. What's interesting, I've just seen a comment there about only one homegrown left. He's 22, so he does take up space.
Yeah, I think January seems more logical because then it doesn't upset Fluminese. And I don't think. I think we're more desperate for an out-and-out six than we are to get him in at the moment. I think getting him in with a view to replacing Thiago when he leaves makes sense, and January seems the right time. But yeah, why shouldn't he come in and start? There is a vacant position in that midfield at the moment that I think is up for grabs.
Yeah.
Most probably, if we were to pick our best team for a crucial game, McAllister and Szoboszlai will play. So there is another position up for grabs. It's whether he would be suitable for that.
Yeah, and before we move on to our talk about Cheick Doucouré, don't forget to leave a like and a subscribe on the video. There's over 200 of you in here. It does loads, as the comment says. Please do. It takes you 2 seconds, and it really does help us out. We wouldn't be asking if it didn't, so please do that. Moving on to Cheick Doucouré, one of the reporters from the Daily Mail, can't think off the top of me because my phone's actually died with all my notes on, but he was saying that a lot of stuff has went quiet. He'd asked about Doucouré with his Liverpool sources, Dan, and it went very quiet, which usually happens before Liverpool are prepping to make an offer. So it does look quite positive on that front. I don't know what the reporter fears, thinks about 60, 70 million. Is he someone you'd be happy with? I mean, he's a monster in the midfield. He had a fantastic season for Palace. They looked very good at Lawns as well. Is that the we should be looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Doucouré's profile is very, very good. As I think Mel Reddy, somebody mentioned earlier, I think this goes back to when we first got linked with Andre, was like Liverpool were looking for a controller and a destroyer. And I think right now with something like Indo, you get both the control and destroying to some degree. And we saw that kind of in that Bournemouth game where you would break up play a bit, keep the ball and move it. I think that's really just what they want right now with someone. I think if you're spending $7 million though on Doucouré, that's a heck of an investment. Now, if you're getting say 55, rising to 60 with add-ons, I actually think that's a very smart buy because you're essentially spending what you would have spent on Lavia, which I think is what Lavia went for to Chelsea. If you're spending what Lavia went for to Chelsea on Cheick Doucouré, you're getting someone who's much older, much more developed, much bigger. And again, I think Colin mentioned earlier, like his stats at Lynn was much better than at Palace because of what he was being asked to do, that progressive passing as well. I like Cheick Doucouré. I think he's a very solid player. I just worry spending that much money on a defensive mid like him that isn't, Moises Caicedo, who is arguably the second best defensive mid in the Prem, is always going to be a bit of a risk and is always going to take money away from, signing an out-and-out center back. And I think if we're signing Doucouré, we're not signing a defender. That's kind of where I'm at this point. Not because of like us being cheapskates or anything else. I just think that you're not going to get a defender that is going to be great for anything less than like 50 to 60 million, which is what we're going to be spending on Doucouré. He's a great player, and I think if you're also signing Doucouré because he can play defense, we're also not going to sign a defender, because you have a situation where you have Endo and Doucouré play. Endo drops into the left, or if Doucouré drops into splits the center backs, and you're playing with two defensive mids that one's going to be dropping into defense. I like him. I think he solves a lot of problems, but it's just one of those things where if we're signing him, I just think it's telling us what our next transfer business is going to be, and it won't be a defender.
Yeah, I mean, Colin, he is only 23. I think he's just turned 23 as well in January. So even if you spend 70 mil on him, you get probably 7 or 8 seasons out from, aren't you, really? And when you look at his stats in the last 360 days, he ranks in the 93rd percentile for interceptions and in the 94th percentile for percentage of dribblers tackled. So he is just an out-and-out defensive midfielder, like what Fab was for us. So I know people wanted Moise Caicedo, but I don't think it was ever really possible when he was Arteta on Chelsea. So in your opinion, he's only got the same amount of experience as Lavia in the Prem. Is he a better option?
Is he a better option than Lavia? Yes. I think he is. Maybe he doesn't quite have... I mean, you can make an argument that maybe the ceiling is not as high, that it's not quite as high as someone like the Lavia is. But I think Jurgen's record of development and really kind of pushing players to a level that I don't think in a lot of places with a lot of coaches that they probably would be pushed to. I think he can be a real solid, like, long-term solution to needing a 6. And we had kind of touched on earlier, if this is the amount of money that they're going to spend on it, then this would be the long-term 6 then. And you could certainly, with the age, with the profile, you can certainly get, like you said, 7 years at least out of paying that money. So I think that probably would be a good use of the money. I think we can probably, again, get it done for around the same, if not slightly more. And he's certainly more ready-made at the moment than Lavia was. So I think it would be a reasonable purchase. I don't think there's any way we're doing all of these things.
Yeah.
Especially prior. Like, we're not... I could definitely, if we're talking like center back, at least another 6 and maybe another just kind of central 6 or 8. I think we'll be lucky to get 2. And I think realistically 1 is like what we should be fine, like what we should probably expect. 2 out of those 3 would be great. And I just don't think there's any way that we're getting all 3 off that wish list.
Neil, do you think Doucouré is? I mean, like Colin says, I can't see us getting everyone who we are linked with, but I think Doucouré is the one who I'd probably say it will come in, because despite Endo coming in, I think the way Klopp's looking at that is he can cover centre back, so then you can shelve centre back really until January, which is a risk, but there's someone there who can play that left-sided centre back role if needed. Doucouré, you could argue, had a better season last year than Lavia, and he's got more experience, so 70 mil is a lot of money, but in today's market, it probably isn't that much, is it?
It's what it is. It's a player with Premier League experience, and yet you're having to pay a premium for that. It's a lot worse this summer. So possibly you would have paid previously 40 to 45 million for him. I would say 70 seems a bit extreme. I think, as Dan said, up to sort of 60 probably seems a bit more reasonable. I think I'm all in on Doucouré. I think Paul made a comment in the chat earlier about Endo being our number 6, and I think, Paul, you're absolutely right. At the moment, Endo is our number 6, but I would prefer to see someone with a bit more mobility to be our, number 1, number 6. Whereas I think Endo will, as Matty said, he can play in a number of different positions and possibly take over the role of Milner. So yeah, I would try and get Palace down. I have seen rumours of a release clause of 58 million, but nothing to back that up. That sort of price tag, I think I'd be happy with, and I think again, Colin mentioned earlier, if you look back at when he was at Lens, his stats in terms of the progressive side of his game were much better than they were at a defensive-minded Palace, and we know under Roy Hodgson what that sort of football is like. So yeah, I'm all in on Doucouré. Monaco, I've got a couple of other good players. There's Mo Kamara, who's also a very good player. So I'm not sure. I don't think he's as tall as Doucouré, but he's another decent player. But so maybe he would be the solution for Palace, because I understand they've asked us to sign a player or make sure that there's a replacement lined up for Doucouré should we sign him.
Yeah. Dan, I mean, does loads of love for Doucouré in the comments. Big Mean Destroyer ready to go. And Chris Morgan's put down here, he's better value than Casado, despite being very similar. I would completely agree, because I think Chelsea paid through the roof for it. £125 million. I don't think anyone's worth that money, to be honest. But even if it was like, say, 60, 50, 60, 70, whatever it is for Doucouré, he's had more experience than your likes of your Lavias. I'm probably a Casado's in a decent level, because before they come to Brighton, I can't remember where he was playing. Anyone know?
Independente. I think it was at Independente at that time, the Ecuadorian club.
So that's a lower level than what Doucouré in France, really. So I can see Chris's logic behind that, really. Can you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not against Doucouré. I'm just trying to imagine like what the mindset is right now in that boardroom with head of scouting, head of recruitment, Jurgen, head of stats. What they're looking what the gaps are in this squad and trying to solve them. Doucouré makes the most sense, because you get a destroyer and you get someone who can drop into defense. Same thing as Endo. You get a destroyer / controller who can drop into defense as well. And again, their technical ability is not terrible. And again, I've always said in this chat since Chelsea, we just need someone to carry some water. You have all the water. You have all the people that can play the piano, which is why I have the screen, because I have the piano right back here. We just need people to carry the piano. The best Liverpool teams didn't have the best 11 players in the world. They had 4 or 5 that were really, really good. Kenny Dalglish, for example. But you had people that were willing to carry water for that team that would do all the dirty work as well. It helps when you have someone like a Graham Souness or a Fabinho who can do all the dirty work and be a great footballer. But right now, if Doucouré is just a water carrier that can play progressive passes, I think that's great. I just worry that my biggest worry is that if it's reported 70 mil, we're not going to buy him. We're going to go get a Gravenberch and Andre and develop a 6. And I think that we might be left in a situation where we don't have someone who's ready-made to step in, which is what my biggest worry is. That if we don't have someone ready-made that can do both defensive mid and center back, we'll be left short in both, which is why I agree. I think we should get Doucouré, but only if the deal makes sense. Because if you're spending 70 mil on Doucouré, that means you don't have 20 or 30 or 40 mil to go get a Levi Colwell. I know I still bang on Levi Colwell, or Nico Schlotterbeck. I think Schlotterbeck's the one they want to get from Dortmund. If they're going to buy another center back, it's going to be Nico Schlotterbeck from Borussia Dortmund.
Paul Lindo makes a good comment, Colin, about Doucouré for 70 mil is a hard sell. I agree with what Neil says. I think we will go 50, 60. But if Andre is available for 17 mil, is the Doucouré ship sailed and Liverpool have got Endo in to see us through till January when Andre comes in, considering his main position is that defensive midfield role as well, considering we do need defenders?
Certainly could be. I've always kind of thought, and not that I think that Endo is not good or that he can't continue to improve, or that it's like that there's something inherently not good enough about his game. I just think that the timing is very weird of it. That's a deal that could have definitely been done in the first month. And if it would have come at that time, I think the attitude, especially when it was like kind of first rumored and first broken by some of the journals, that I think that the timing really makes a big difference. And I think it really shows, it shows kind of an insight into maybe what the state is and kind of what option level we're at in terms of looking for midfielders. And I don't think that we're on level A, B, or probably C. I think we're probably at okay, well, if we're not going to get, the one, then maybe we can piece some things together and we can find value in terms of overall like stats and who can kind of provide and fill in those holes while we're waiting for an Andre in January. Maybe if we get Gravenberch, for him to kind of really settle in and take up that kind of responsibility that if we were to get him, that we would hope that he'd be taking, is certainly within a couple of months and definitely by the start of next year. So I think that probably is more likely, especially if I'm not 100% convinced Palace really want to sell. Like, I think their life becomes really, really difficult if they sell to us now, and they don't have someone who is just going to like walk into that team.
I think they're going to buy Yusuf Fofana. I think if Doucouré goes, that they go get Fofana from Monaco because he's been linked away to like Forest or something else. But I think that's who Palace go and get.
I wouldn't necessarily doubt it. I just think that's a lot of business to be done and not a lot of time to do it.
Yeah.
And listen, you can kind of handshake on a lot of things and sign the necessary paperwork and kind of figure some stuff out on the back end with teams and between clubs if you have to. But that just like that timeline is really screaming at, like, it's really coming fast, I think. And there's not a lot of time for teams to backfill if we're going to take their best midfielder.
Now, if I it's more that Andre's like double the price now to what he is in January because the Copa Libertadores. And I completely agree with Rakinia, and apparently Brighton and Porto sniffing around. I think Liverpool are going to try and do a deal now, aren't they, Neil? We'll leave it on this, but I feel like Liverpool are trying to do a deal now to get Andre in January, so it does get over the line. Because I mean, you makes a point here. I know I've just asked Colin completely opposite, but if Endo's coming in, Neil, and doing the Milner role, can you see Doucouré coming in and Andre, considering Andre can play defensive or centre mid, and he has played attacking as well? Do you think having two players for the position, something we've never really seen, because we've had Fabinho, who was just the lighthouse? Can you see that?
I can see Doucouré coming in. I can't see Andre coming in now.
No.
And one of the big reasons that I think that's the case is because I think the Brazilian transfer window is shut, so Fluminese wouldn't be able to sign a replacement for him. So I've kind of written him off until January, and I think we will go for Doucouré, and I think that will then free up Endo to be a backup number 6 and a versatile player to play wherever we need him to play, which might be in the middle of defence as well.
Yeah. We'll leave it there for this evening, though. Before we do go, this was also a minute ago, we were nearly on 100 likes. If you can get us to 100 likes before we go off stream right now, that would be mega. Go and watch City. They are actually winning. They've just scored against Newcastle. Alvarez. I think everyone, if City are going to score, wants Haaland because he's everyone's captain in the FPL. I'm sure of it. But we will leave it there for today's stream. We will be back tomorrow at 7:30. I think it's FJ and Grace tomorrow as well, which is a brilliant show. So do tune in for that. I've been Matty, joined by Dan, Colin, and Neil. Like I said, do leave a like and subscribe on the video before you go. Helps us out loads. We've been LFC Transfer Room, and we'll see you tomorrow for the next one.